So Emma, it's a huge shock. I've muted everyone and we're starting in standing. So a lot of people are sort of going in and out. I think it must be, yeah, we're starting standing up, I'm afraid. So I know that's a bit of a terrible shock to the system. So, and coming, yes, so coming into standing, and I think I've got my laptop on a slightly different surface today, which is a bit more stable. But yeah, I might, if you can't see me, do let me know. So coming into standing, and it might just be that you start by looking at your feet. And we're going to do a simple exercise with our arms, which is very much about bringing our, I suppose, bringing ourselves very present. But perhaps first of all, you could just do a little bit of swaying from side to side. So you can feel your weight in one leg and foot and in the other. And we're going to start bringing our hands into prayer pose at our heart. I suppose I say the heart centre because the heart is off to the left. So level with the heart and in the centre. And in this little series of movements, we're thinking about, I suppose, uniting the mind and the heart. So we're going to repeat this 3 times. So settling down. So from swaying, let yourself settle. Let a breath come in. And as you exhale, you're going to take your arms down and then up and touch your hands over your head in prayer pose. I'm not quite sure if you can see my hands. Good. And then from there, bring your thumbs down to the rest on your forehead. So that point between your eyebrows. So the thumbs are coming to rest there. And let a breath come in and let a breath leave you. And then bring your hands back down to your heart and touch your thumbs, the base of your thumbs on your chest at your heart. And let a breath come in and let a breath leave you. And then with your next exhalation, you're going to take your arms down and then up again. So touch your hands in prayer pose over your head, but let your shoulders drop. And then again, you bring the base of your thumbs to that point between your eyebrows. You let a breath come in, you let a breath leave you. So I'll just come forwards if you're not sure. So the base of your thumbs are on that point between your eyebrows. And then you bring the base of your thumbs down to rest on your breastbone at your heart centre. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then next exhalation, one last time, we take the arms down. We touch the hands in prayer pose over the head. We bring the base of the thumbs to the point between the eyebrows. We let a breath come in, we let a breath leave us. We bring the hands to the heart. We let a breath come in, we let a breath leave us. And just maybe here, open up your hands so you can rest one hand on top of the other at your heart centre. And just maybe have another cycle of breath there. Just seeing how it feels to bring your awareness to this part of yourself. So have one more cycle of breath here. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then release your arms and just come into this loose, easy swinging twist. That's it. So if you are feeling a bit achy or stiff around the shoulders, I've got everyone. So many people sort of dropping in and out tonight, I think with devices being problematic. So I hope everyone's managed to join us. Good. So swinging your arms, slapping your arms on your body if you like. Just, yeah, if you are feeling, I think Ruth, you were saying you're feeling a bit stiff and creaky. If you are feeling stiff and creaky, just using these movements to start to undo things. And then from here, we're going to come into a very easy forward bend. So I'm just going sideways. You don't really need to see me. So you're going to start to look down. Start to slide your hands down your thighs. If you want to have your elbows on your thighs, you can do. Otherwise, you can release your arms to the floor. So just see how it feels to come into a forward bend right now. Yes, let your head go. That's very nice, Emma. Good. And yeah, bend your knees as much as you like. If your lower back feels tight, then that's when it would be good to rest your elbows on your thighs. And just maybe have another breath or two there, trying to let the arms, the shoulders, the head go as much as possible. And then letting a breath come in, and as you exhale, roll back up into standing, or walk your hands up your thighs if your lower back is feeling a bit creaky. And we're going to do just a little sequence of balances. So maybe watch me. Some of you know this one. We're going to be taking our weight onto one foot. First of all, we take our foot back. Then we take our foot into tree. And then we're crossing our knees and we're bringing the hands into prayer pose. You could bring your hands into prayer pose for tree if you like. So what I'd like you to do is just maybe close your eyes in standing and come back to that swaying movement. So you can choose which foot you're going to stand on. And this is quite early on. So think about it again as this, you know, we're trying to feel that we're rooted and steady, which is why we're doing these little balances. That's it. So let your weight rock to the right and to the left. Let your shoulders drop. Good. So from rocking and swaying, hopefully you've chosen which foot you're going to stand on. And you're going to shift your weight onto that foot and come up onto the ball of your other foot. And then you're going to start to slide those toes back behind you. Yeah, so sliding your toes back behind you. And you can see how it feels to flip onto the top of your toes. And then what I'd like you to do here is just, can you bounce those toes on the floor? Can you sort of pick them up and put them down again? So just sort of bouncing your toes on the floor. And then let that foot slide back in. Let your knee turn out to the side a little and bring your foot onto your ankle. Yes, and at this point, if you wanted to have your hands in prayer pose, if that helps you feel steady, or your hands on your breastbone. And have a breath or two in this mini tree pose and see how that feels. If you feel wobbly, you can bring your toes back to the floor. And then from here, do bring your toes to the floor so that you can bend your standing knee and cross your other leg over it. And you might have your big toe touching the floor. And try to feel here that your shoulders remain over your hips. It's quite easy in this one to end up leaning forwards, which is an option, but not one that we're doing right now. Good, just have another breath or two if you can there. Lovely. And then undo. Have a little shake out. Arms and legs, good. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side, but maybe just for a moment before we do the other side, settle in standing, feet hip width apart and parallel, and just the sense of being here in standing. How does it feel? Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then start, make sure you open your eyes if you shut them, start to shift your weight onto your other foot. Come up onto the ball of the foot you just stood on and then slide that foot back behind you. You can flip onto the top of your toes. You could bounce your toes on the floor. So sort of, pick them up and put them down again. Not a big bounce. And then slide your foot back in again. Let your knee come out to the side. So you come into a mini tree pose and you could have some toes on the floor. Hands, yes, could come into prayer pose now if you like. Let the shoulders drop. Have a breath or two or three here. Good. And then let your toes come onto the floor. Let your standing knee bend. And then cross your other leg over. And again, your big toe could be on the floor or that top leg could be off the ground completely. Let your shoulders drop over your hips. Have a breath or two here. Very nice. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave. Come out. Give your arms, sorry, hands as well, arms and legs. Oh, a bit of a shake out. And we're going to go back into another forward bend and just see how this second forward bend feels. So feet hip width apart and parallel. Rolling forwards when you're ready. Letting your head go, letting your arms go. Oh, very nice to see Atticus there, Rosie. And you as well, of course. But he's so lovely. Good, let the head go.
arms go. See how the forward bend feels. If your back feels a bit vulnerable, rest your elbows on your thighs. And then letting a breath come in, sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. And just let yourself arrive in standing for a moment and see how it feels. And then come back into this one. So we're going to do one more sort of balancing thing in standing. And this is a little mini sequence of balance, maybe not quite as mini as the last sequence. So I will show you. And it really depends on how you're feeling this evening. So yeah, you give it a go. Or you could just stay with the first bit if you're feeling you just want to do something quite quiet. So yeah, maybe just watch for a moment. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to show you the second part. So we're going to come into this balance by reaching up, yeah, catching the top of our foot, coming to here. And the bit I would like you to watch is here, where what we're going to then do is release the back leg, reach back with the heel, the hands come into prayer pose. We try to tilt forwards and stay long, which I was probably doing a very poor job of. It's a bit wobbly. So let's just see how we get on with this. So if you can, hopefully you can remember, whichever foot you stood on first, you're going to take that arm up. So coming onto your first side, you're taking that arm up, you're shifting your weight onto that foot. You're letting the other foot become light, your heel comes up, and then the whole of the other foot, and you catch the top of your foot. And then you can bring your hand down to your breastbone and just sort of see how you feel here. If you don't feel that steady, you might want to stay here. If you want to go on to the next part, you release your foot, you reach behind you with your heel, you bring your hands into prayer pose at your breastbone. And you see if you can tilt forwards a little bit. Beautiful. Yes, very nice. That's it. Good. Good. Beautiful. Well done. It's lovely. You don't want to stay there that long because you've obviously been in another balance. It looks really, really lovely. But come down when you're ready and just have a little bit of a shake out. So obviously when we move from one balance to another, it does tend to make us a little bit more wobbly, obviously, than if we're just doing one. So yeah, just be kind to yourself if you're having a wobbly evening. So let's reach up through the other arm. Shift our weight into that leg. Start to lighten the other foot on the floor so the heel comes up. And then the ball of the foot, we catch that foot. And we bring our hand onto our breastbone and just see, how does that feel? How does that feel? Good. And then from here, if you want to, you release your foot, you reach the heel back behind you, you touch your hands in prayer pose. And you explore tilting forwards as you bring your back leg up until maybe you come into a long line, depending on, yes, that's it. It might just be for a moment. Beautiful. Yeah, very lovely. Great. Well done. Well done. Have a little shake out. So we're coming down from standing, so I might be our standing for this evening. So come towards the back of your mat, and just at the back of your mat, if you're at the back of your mat, because we're going to come down through dog pose and forward bend and dog pose, but first of all, just do a bit of this reaching up through one arm and then the other. So reaching. As you reach up into one arm, you shift your weight into that leg and foot. Reaching up. And then from here, when you're ready, just let yourself roll down into a forward bend. Have a few breaths in that forward bend. Let your head go, let your arms go. And whenever you're ready, you can then take that forward bend on into dog pose. Big handprints on the floor, see how it feels. Obviously, when you come into dog pose, you may want to bend your knees, both knees, one knee. And if dog pose feels pleasant, you might want to stay there for a few more breaths, but whenever you're ready, you're going to be folding down into child pose. And what I was going to say, if you prefer, there are options of kneeling or lying on your belly. So for any reason child pose isn't great for you right now, you've got those other options. And just settling quietly. Letting your breath come in, letting your breath leave you. Feeling the contact of your forehead on the floor. And the movement of your breath through your body. So from child pose, we're going to come onto hands and knees. So come to hands and knees and take a little bit of time to settle yourself on hands and knees, hands under your shoulders, knees under your hip joints. And when you're ready, you're going to do some cat movements here. So rounding your back to the ceiling, dipping your spine down to the floor. And just seeing how these movements feel this evening. So in standing, our focus was very much on, I suppose, being rooted, being steady. Here it's about trying to find this flexibility, this fluidity of the spine. So we come now to really, sensing our spine. Rounding up, dipping down. A few more times. Good. And just trying to find a movement that feels, again, should I say feels pleasant, feels enjoyable. And whenever you want to, when you've done maybe a few more cycles of cat, you're once again going to come into dog pose, obviously this time from the ground. So when you're ready, you can be tucking your toes under, exhaling, rocking your hips back over your heels, picking your knees up off the floor. And seeing how the second dog pose feels, seeing how it feels to come into dog from the ground, which for me always feels a bit more satisfying than dog from a forward bend. But again, remember you can bend your knees, lots, one knee, both knees. Oh good, Maria, we've got you there. I can't see you, but I can see your name, so I'm pleased you managed to rejoin. Lovely. And again, from dog pose, folding down, child pose, kneeling, lying on your belly, just coming to your breath for a few cycles of breath. And whichever position you've chosen to settle in, just be aware of the contact of the ground beneath you and the feeling of letting your body settle onto the ground, however you're positioned. We're going to come back onto hands and knees. So it might be, particularly if you've been in kneeling or child pose, if you've been lying on your belly, I think you just lay on your belly, I'm not quite sure. If you've been lying on your belly, you might not need to do this. I was going to say, come onto hands and knees, lengthen each leg out behind you. So if your knees have been bent, it would be nice to lengthen your legs out, hopefully. And then settle on hands and knees again. And we're going to do a bit of tail wagging, and we're going to do a bit of little fishes. So just thinking if anyone was listening into this who didn't know what I was talking about, they'd be most perplexed. So when you're ready, come to imagining you have a tail, a dog's tail or a fish's tail, could be some other sort of tail, and you're wagging your tail. So if you're a dog, you're wagging your tail from side to side. If you're a fish, you're swishing your tail from side to side. So you're feeling how one side of your body shortens, the other side lengthens as your tail goes side to side. And then you could do the same movement by swinging your lower legs to the right and to the left. And if you do this slowly, you could look at your feet. Look along the side of your body towards your feet, and then you gather up and lengthen out even more. I mean, I personally wouldn't do it very quickly if I'm looking. I can quite easily get dizzy. Or you could just swing your legs more quickly from side to side and not look at them and feel the pelvis going from side to side. And then again, when you're ready, you're going to come back into another dog pose. If you need to give your hands a shake out before you do, please do so. And then whenever you're ready, big handprints on the floor, tucking your toes under, rocking your hips back over your heels. Coming into dog pose. Again, seeing how it feels. So each time we come back into dog pose, into a forward bend, perhaps we feel that we can settle a bit more fully. We can sort of say be ourselves, but we can just, yeah, be there. And again, from your dog pose, you can fold down into child, kneeling, lying on your belly. Have a couple of quiet breaths. Again, just settling, coming back to the breath, letting your wrists and your hands ease out. So I wanted us to explore a few different twists today, actually. And so I'm thinking a lot about when I think twists are effective. And this one from hands and knees, which if anyone's come to other classes this week, you may well have done, I think it's really quite a good twist. So it's the one where you're on hands and knees. You slide one arm underneath. So sometimes it's known as thread the needle, and the side of your head comes onto the floor. You just need to check that your neck is happy, and then you can, if you like, take your top arm up towards the ceiling or back to rest on the back of your pelvis, or even just around the back of your ribs. But just if you take that top arm up, make sure your neck is happy. Yeah. But I think this, yeah, that's it. So slide one arm underneath. Good. The side of your head comes onto the floor. If your neck's happy with that, your top arm can come up. You try and feel that your arm is going up towards the ceiling. It's quite hard to orientate yourself sometimes here. And then you can also take that arm back behind you, either onto the pelvis or round the back of your ribs. And just see how one feels. So Ruth, this is probably quite good if you're feeling stiff for getting into some of that stiffness. I find it really helpful. So when I was thinking about what makes a useful twist, it's about what really gets into our rib cage and gets our ribs moving and mobilized. So to come out of this, bring your hand back down onto the floor so you can sink into your hand. You can bring yourself back on hands and knees and then go to the other side, unless you've done that already. So again, sliding one arm underneath, checking that your neck feels happy with being on the side of your head, because it is bringing your neck into a bit of a side bend. And then that top arm can come up or round onto the back of your pelvis, around the back of your ribs. Just noticing what you feel in your rib cage. And you might feel this somewhere else, but again, yeah, where I tend to feel this is in my ribs, in the spine between the shoulder blades. And then again, bring that top arm down when you want to come out. Plant that hand on the floor, sink down into it, come back onto hands and knees. And one more time, I think I always want to come into dog pose after this one to do something very balanced and familiar. So coming into dog, and just settling, knees bent, whatever feels good. Settling if you can for couple of quiet, is it possible to have a few quiet breaths in dog? Has your dog pose got to the stage, don't mean generally, I just mean this evening, where it is possible to have a few quiet breaths there? And from this dog, one more time, folding down, kneeling, child pose, lying on your belly. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. So as well as twists, one of the other things I wanted us to think about this evening is a bit of opening out through the front of our body, which we do quite often anyway. But that's what we're going to come to a bit more of now. So from your child pose kneeling, lying on your belly, you're going to be coming into lunge. So from hands and knees, you can bring one foot forwards between your hands. And we were doing quite a lot of lunge last Thursday evening in the heat, not quite so warm today. You can, I was just thinking we'd do a very simple lunge where your front foot is between your hands. If you prefer bringing your foot to the outside of your hands and your hands onto the inside, you can do that. And just having a few breaths in your lunge. Again, if you like to rock in and out of lunge a bit, you could untuck your back toes. So the back toes are flat. You could ease back out of lunge, look back towards your back foot, and then you could ease forwards again into your lunge. So if that's if it's quite helpful for you to have some movement here. Rocking back, coming forwards into lunge. So when you're doing that rocking back, you're keeping your chest close to your thigh. You come up onto the heel of that front leg. And so in a moment, we'll swap sides on lunge. Hopefully the rocking forwards and back has kept us here a little bit longer. Might have another breath or two on this side. And then just swap sides. You could go into dog pose, but I was going to say swap sides on hands and knees. And then after this side of lunge, we will again have a lengthen out in dog. So bringing your other foot forwards, seeing how that feels for a couple of breaths. Back toes could be tucked under or flat. Just that feeling of trying to give the weight of the pelvis to the floor. We're opening through the front of the back thigh. Could take your front foot out to the side a bit if you wanted. I think if you are going to ease forwards and back, I might have been a bit unclear on the first side, you're probably better off with your foot in between your hands. Untuck your toes in your back foot. Well, I would anyway, my back knee is happier like that. If you want to do a bit of that easing forwards and back. So rocking back, looking back, onto your front heel, coming forwards, weight into your front foot, letting the pelvis drop. Okay, another few breaths on this side of lunge. You can be moving in and out, you can be staying there. And then whenever you're ready, you can be planting your hands down, stepping your front foot back into dog pose. So might be that you have to walk the other foot in a little bit. So yes, if there is some sort of reorganization of your feet needed from stepping back into dog, then absolutely do that. Good. Very nice. And again, from this dog pose, we're going to just sit for a moment in kneeling and give your hands a little bit of a shake out, because we're going to do a little bit of moving towards our face up dog. So could fold into child pose, but maybe just a little bit of kneeling. If you don't like, if kneeling's not so great, be in an up kneeling, shake your hands out. And then start off by coming into this long hands and knees position. So your hands are further forwards than your shoulders, and you're seeing how does it feel? How does it feel to start to bring the weight into the hands, to let the pelvis travel forwards? And this is without rounding the back. This is just our sort of exploratory movements. And this is all about, you know, how are we opening up through the front of the pelvis? And of course, there's quite a lot going on in the upper back as well. So from here, it might be that you want to find a bit more length in your lower back. So you could tuck your toes under, round your back to the ceiling, rock your hips back over your heels. Let the breath come in and then travel forwards into face up dog, rounding your back, untucking your toes, arriving in your face up dog that way. So you could do that maybe 3 times, 2 or 3 times moving. So reverse that movement, tuck your toes under, round your back to the ceiling, rock your hips back over your heels. And then as you exhale, traveling back into face up dog again. You can do that one more time if you like. Depending if your wrists need a bit of a rest, do come out, shake your hands out. Otherwise, rocking back again, toes tucked under. One more time, rounding your back to the ceiling, traveling forwards into face up dog. Let the pelvis go. And then from here, you could move on back on into dog pose one more time by tucking your toes under in your face up dog, and then send your hips up and back into dog. You might need to step your feet in a little bit.
Now we're going to, after this dog, we're going to be coming into kneeling and doing a kneeling twist. So Jude, I don't know if you have any things you could sit on that would help you kneel more comfortably. Cushions or blocks or books or anyone else. So if kneeling is a bit challenging for you, if kneeling's really challenging for you and you haven't got anything to hand, you can always be sort of upright here, but to do a twist, we really need to be sitting more effectively down in kneeling for the sort of twist we're going to do now. So it could be that you have a cushion between your heels and your bottom. It could be that some of you might want a cushion under the tops of your feet. Just in your kneeling, can you bring your hands onto your pelvis? Can you just let your pelvis roll back and roll forward? So it's a bit like we're doing our cat movements here. And from doing these, I'd like you to find the middle ground where you're neither rolling back nor forwards. So your spine is as much as possible in neutral, sort of long and tall. And then we're going to turn one way. So your front hand comes to rest on your thigh, the back fingertips are on the floor or on the back of your pelvis. We're going to have a couple of breaths here. Now we're going to turn the other way, and we're going to do this twice in each direction. So you can turn, and then you can come back to the center and you can turn the other way. Have a couple of breaths here. Let your shoulders drop, your front hand comes to rest on your thigh. So I think this is a really effective twist because the pelvis doesn't move here. Yeah, so we're really asking the ribs to move and the spine. So come back to the center again, turn back to the first side again, let your shoulders drop, let your elbows soften. So you really want the shoulders, the arms to soften as much as possible. Come back to the center, you can go to the second side for the second time. Having a couple of breaths here, so really let those arms be as relaxed as possible. And then from here, coming back to the center, if you need to stretch your legs out on hands and knees, do so. What I would like you to do is sit down. Let's see. No, it doesn't matter actually. Sit down onto one side of kneeling. So you sit down into side sitting, and then you slide your legs a bit further apart into pinwheel. Are we all there? Good. And we can do a little bit of circling here. Circling and circling. If you like to do the one where you're giving yourself a hug and circling. So Ruth, this might be quite good if you're feeling stiff around the shoulders, giving yourself a hug, letting your head hang. Circling in one direction, circling in the other direction. Very nice. And we can release our arms and we will go into our
pinwheel forward bend. But today I would also like you to explore coming towards the side bend in pinwheel. So we can fold forwards. So what we normally do, we turn towards this knee that's going out to the side. We fold forwards over that leg, which is very nice. So we can do that for a few breaths, but we can also see what's it like to walk our hands around. We might have to come up a bit higher to walk around towards the other knee. And it becomes harder generally to fold forwards the closer we get towards that other knee. And maybe we can feel how one side of our body is really gathering up and the other side is lengthening. You could walk back and across a couple of times just to see if you can feel how that changes in the side of your body as you walk towards that other knee. It's not always that comfortable. I was just thinking I'm feeling quite a lot going on in my hip. So it might be quite nice to end up in your pinwheel forward bend. Yeah, so folding over that thigh like we usually do. And just having a couple of quiet breaths. So resting down, just letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then slowly walking your hands in towards you. Coming up. As we've had the knees bent for a while, let's lengthen the legs out in front of us and just give the legs a little bit of a roll. A little bit roll, bounce the knees. And then slide the feet up and come into cobbler pose. And just see how that feels. So we could walk your hands in. Yeah, we can exactly, Rosie, we can do a bit of rocking. That's nice, but rocking from side to side. Seeing how that feels. You can also do a bit of the sort of leaning from side to side. So I quite like this one at the moment where I'm leaving my legs there. You can lean, yes, and if you take your top arm up, it becomes a sort of side lengthening movement too. So that this is the one I always don't know when to stop. It's quite like going from side to side. So one side feels long. We're trying to really feel the pelvis and legs stay heavy. Good. Let's finish with this. And let's move on to the second side of pinwheel. So bring one knee on top of the other knee. Slide that leg back. So hopefully you're inside two of pinwheel now. Do a bit of circling. Either with your arms loose or giving yourself a hug, letting your head hang. So again, this one is nice if the neck and the shoulders are feeling tight. Letting the head hang, circling one way, circling the other. Obviously releasing your arms whenever you like, giving yourself a hug. So as on side one of pinwheel, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to fold over this thigh where the knee's going out to the side, have a few breaths there, and then explore a couple of times walking towards the back leg and seeing how that feels. We can fold over this leg, settle down, have a few breaths, seeing how that feels. And it's, you know, I say this to you, I always find this quite a quiet place, quiet, settled place to be. And then you can explore how is it to walk your hands over towards that other knee. And certainly I have to come up a bit when I do this. I'm not as folded forwards. And for me, it feels more challenging. Yeah. If you're thinking about folding forwards over that other leg, that's probably a lot more challenging. And so a couple of times walk between your knees. So walk back to the knee that it's easier to fold over, and then walk your hands back towards the other leg and see how that feels. And just notice what's happening in the sides of your body. One side's much longer than the other. And then you can walk back into pinwheel, back into your forward bend. So bending over, as we usually do, the knee that's going out to the side. And having a few breaths here. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Yes. Yes, and whenever you've had enough of your pinwheel forward bend, you can walk your hands in towards you. You can lean back onto your arms. You're going to lengthen your legs out again. And give them a bit of a lengthen out. Now, just thinking, we're coming into pigeon pose now. And I was going to say we'd have the right, well, we're going to do a variation of pigeon pose. And I've got my notes that you need to have the right leg forward. So I think this is just to help me keep on track. So first of all, you're going to come into this variation of pigeon pose where you just bring your knee forwards. The knee comes straight forwards and your heel is under your buttock. And then we do this rocking of the pelvis from side to side, as long as that feels okay in your front knee. So if anyone doesn't like that, then yeah, so if in this rocking doesn't suit your knee, then just let yourself rock all the way, your pelvis all the way to the outside of your heel. So so your pelvis comes down onto the floor. But if it feels okay, it actually can be really helpful for knees, this one. Be down on your forearms. So you're rocking your pelvis to the right and to the left of your heel. And seeing how this feels. So again, this is a side bending movement. We're going to be lengthening through one side of the body and shortening through the other. So you could look down the sides of your body as your pelvis is moving from side to side. And then from here, we're going to come on into pigeon pose. So let your pelvis rock to the outside of your heel. And then you might want to slide your heel a bit further over towards the left. So it's in front of your back thigh. Yeah. So so moving on into sort of a normal pigeon pose from there. And just, wherever you would like to be in pigeon pose. So it could be your forearms, you could be on your hands, you could be lower down, maybe resting your forehead on the back of your hand, having a few breaths. Remember, if your front knee isn't happy, you roll your weight onto the top of that front leg thigh. Good. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then from here, we're going to roll our weight, all of us now, onto that front leg thigh. So onto your right thigh. Do the same side as you. That's it, come to here. And then you're going to swing your back leg around. So you bring it forwards and you straighten that leg out. So you're standing your right foot on the floor. And you can hold around this right leg. Come to here. You can, so my right foot's on the floor. There's a hip width distance between my foot and my long leg. Just my right leg is bent, the left leg is long. And if you hold around that leg, you can let your spine lengthen and grow up. Let your shoulders drop. And we can do a little bit of a twist here. We can turn towards this leg. And we can also turn away from this leg. So we won't stay here long, but we'll just see how it feels to turn in each direction towards the leg and then away from the leg and holding around your leg. So the other arm, your fingertips come onto the floor behind you, the arm that you're turning towards and the arm you're turning away from holds onto your leg. And then from here, you might be very happy to know, you're going to use your hands beside you to lower yourself down on the floor. So you're lying down with your right knee bent and your left leg long. And just let yourself arrive on your back in that position. And so here we're going to come into that foot pressing movement. So as you exhale, you're pressing down into your right foot, letting your pelvis tilt towards the left. And keep sending your right knee forwards over your footprint. And just do this several times, pressing down into your right foot, letting the right side of the pelvis come away from the floor, letting your pelvis tilt towards the left. So do this perhaps a couple more times. Just noticing how it feels in your body up through the right side of the body into the right ribs. And then let your pelvis settle on the ground. And fold your right knee into your chest. And hold around your knee with both hands to start with, and just let the knee fold in towards you, settle in towards your chest for a couple of breaths. So you feel that deep fold in the front of the right hip joint, and the front of the left hip joint is open. Left leg is long on the floor. And then we're going to move from here into a twist. So keep your left hand on your knee and bring your right arm out on the floor at shoulder height. So you're going to be exploring rocking your knee across your body. So rock that right knee across your body towards the left. So the back of your pelvis comes away from the floor, but your right shoulder stays on the floor. And it might be that you want to rock in and out of this a few times. That's absolutely, yeah. So just sort of see what feels good for you. You might want to rock, stay there. If you're staying in the twist, you can support so it's your right knee, you could support it, make a little shelf. Your left elbow comes on the floor and your palm makes a little shelf for that right knee. Because for most of us, we're probably not going to get that knee all the way down onto the floor with our shoulder staying on the ground. Yes, Emma, that's quite good. If you have some furniture where you can rest or a wall where you can rest your right foot up, you can definitely do that. Good, and just have a few breaths in the twist. But also when you've had enough, you can roll out onto your back. Just see how it feels to lie, however you want to lie for a moment. So it might feel quite strange when I was doing this earlier, because we've done one movement, we've done this movement, or a lot of movements on one side, but not the other. So just see how it feels to lie for a moment. We will, unsurprisingly, be going back and doing everything on the other side. So what you might like to do before we come off our backs is to fold your knees into your chest. So both knees now. Just do a little bit of rocking from side to side. You could also take both legs towards the ceiling and shake them out. And just have long legs, that's very nice. Just long legs towards the ceiling without even shaking them is nice. And then folding your knees back into your chest, you can roll onto your side. And I think this is why I told you to either do your left or right, to do your right side first in pigeons, so that you didn't have to remember all this time. So roll onto your side, come back onto hands and knees. You're going to be coming into pigeon with the pigeon variation with your left knee forwards. So remember, the pigeon variation was this one where we started with the heel under its buttock, the one where we're rocking from our pelvis from side to side over our heel. So we're on our forearms. We're doing this rocking from here, side to side. So this might feel like quite a soothing movement. If it doesn't feel like a soothing movement, then maybe do a bit less, maybe move on to normal pigeon. Rocking the pelvis to the outside of your heel towards the inside of your heel. You can carry on with this if you like, but also whenever you're ready, you can move on into, I suppose, normal pigeon. So let your pelvis rock towards the outside of your heel. You might then want to let your knee, you might then need to move your left foot so it's in front of your right thigh. You might need to take the left knee out to the side a little bit. And settling down in pigeon, as much as we can settle in pigeon. So exhaling here, big exhalations. Any little rocking movements you like to do, always helpful. Remember, you can be on your forearms, your hands. You can go lower down, rest your forehead on the floor or the back of your hands. Just another few breaths in pigeon if that's bearable. And then from pigeon, we're going to be rolling onto our front leg hip. So we can swing our back leg forwards. We can stand the left foot on the floor. So we come back to briefly visit these twists where the left knee is bent, the left foot is standing on the floor with a hip width distance between your foot and your right leg. You can be holding around, first of all, holding around that left leg with your left arm and growing tall. Letting the shoulders drop. And then again, exploring the two ways we can turn towards the leg. So we're turning towards that left leg, so the right arm holds around the left leg. The left fingers come on the floor behind us to help keep the spine upright. Seeing how that feels. And then turning towards the left leg. No, turning away from the left leg, sorry, towards your right, turning towards the right. Good, and then so this time the left arm can hold around the left leg. The right fingers are on the floor behind you. Good. Okay. Very nice. And then turning back to the centre. And then from here, use your hands on the floor beside you to gently lower yourself down onto your back. And when you arrive on your back, just have a couple of breaths, let yourself settle. So your left knee is bent, your right leg is long. And whenever you're ready, hi Emma. Whenever you're ready, you come into that foot pressing movement now with using your left foot. So maybe you coordinate the pressing into your left foot with your exhalation. And just how does it feel? How does it feel through the left side of the body as you press into your left footprint, as your pelvis lifts on the left, as the weight of the pelvis tilts to the right. Just repeat this a few more times so this movement can be quite soothing and settling. We can enjoy the feeling of the ground beneath the back of us, having been deprived of it at the start of class. So once or twice more, pressing into your left foot, letting the left side of the pelvis lift. And then pausing, settling the pelvis down, folding that left knee in towards your chest. And have a few quiet breaths there. Knee folded into your chest, holding around your knee with your hands. So the feeling of your left thigh settling towards your body. Good. Very nice. And then from here you can bring your left arm out onto the floor at shoulder height. You can keep supporting, is that right? Yes, the left arm on the floor at shoulder height, supporting your knee with your right hand and starting to rock your knee across your body towards the right. If I've got the arms wrong, then just please, that's it, yes. So you've got your left knee folded in towards you, so you want to support it with the right hand, have the left arm on the floor at shoulder height. So we're trying to keep the left shoulder down as we rock that left leg over towards the right side of us. The back of the pelvis comes away from the floor, but we keep the left shoulder settled on the ground. And you can rock in and out, or you can stay in this twist. So it's entirely up to you. If you're staying in the twist and you need to support that leg, remember, make a little shelf with your arm. Elbow on the floor, your knee resting in the palm of your hand. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. So you can stay in that twist for another couple of breaths if you like. But whenever you're ready, you're going to come out, you're going to roll back to the center, and we're going to just lie quietly and rest and breathe a little bit on our back. So make sure you're warm enough. We're not going to sleep just yet. We have got more of the class left, but you're going to have a little quiet period. And I'm going to read a short poem, which we will have again at the end of class. So so settling down and just, letting yourself have a little bit of quiet time. So this is a poem by Jane Hirshfield, who I've read poems before by her in class, and this one as well, but not for quite a long time. And she's a Zen Buddhist and a poet. And this book is called The Lives of the Heart. And so if we come back to those movements we were doing right at the beginning of the class, which were about this sense of connecting the mind and the heart. And in a moment I will have found the poem. Fold it over. So this poem is called Late Prayer. Tenderness does not choose its own uses. It goes out to everything equally. Circling rabbit and hawk. In the iron bucket, a single nail, a single ruby, all the heavens and hells. They rattle in the heart and make one sound. We'll come back, we'll have that again at the end of class. So just let yourself have a few, maybe half a dozen or so more quiet breaths lying down. Just feeling the movement of your breath in your belly. And in another few moments, we're going to be coming back over and we're going to be doing some more movements, opening through the front of ourselves and on hands and knees, a bit of sitting, another twist and some breathing. So from wherever you are, maybe just start to think about making your way round. Yes, making your way over, and we're going to be coming into up kneeling. So we're coming into this position, which, believe me, is not my favourite. My knees a little bit creaky in this one. So if your knees are creaky, depends how much padding you've got under you, but you can always put, you can always put a blanket or something under your knees. So if creaky knees is the problem here, then just give yourself a bit more padding. And all we're going to do to start with is a little bit of turning. Turning one way, turning the other. And see how that feels. So in some of these movements, I know some of you, we did a variation last Thursday. So we're doing some camel and kapotasana here. So just be aware of your lower back and don't do anything that feels that's not helpful for you. So yeah, there's that little bit of turning. And then the other one I wanted you to try here is, what's it like if we take the arms up? And what's it like if we let the gaze come up a little bit? So this is, an opening through this kapotasana. Now, it might be a bit challenging on the lower back, in which case, sometimes what I like to do here is have my hand on, right down sort of on my tailbone, sort of encouraging my tailbone to drop as I bring one arm up. Just try that. So don't overdo it. We're going to repeat all of these again in a moment. So just sort of see how that feels. And then the last one I'd like you to do here is just tucking your toes under. And then can you reach from side to side and touch your toes? So one heel, not your toes, sorry, reach from side to side and touch your heels. So, if it's very easy and you want to touch your toes, that's fine, but just, from side to side. And it's quite interesting because we're touching the heels without seeing them. Yeah. Well, you might be looking back and seeing them, that's fine. It might be quite helpful. Okay. We're going to come back into all of those, but let's just move our spines the other way for a moment. So come onto hands and knees, come forwards onto hands and knees. Lengthen each leg out behind you. And then on hands and knees, tuck your toes under. Now we're going to be coming back from here into a squat. So if you need a book or a cushion or something under your heels to stay in a squat, you don't have to have something, but it is helpful. So pick your knees up. We're coming onto the balls of the feet. And so we're rocking back towards a squat from this position. So from being on the balls of the feet, how is it to rock back towards a squat? Again, it doesn't matter if your heels don't reach the floor, but if you want to stay here and really let your lower back lengthen out, it can be helpful having something under the heels. It can also be helpful to fold forwards between your knees. So to let your knees come apart and settle your rib cage down in between them, if that is possible. So that's another option. And have a couple of breaths there. And then from here, to carry on just with this feeling of lengthening out the lower back, we're going to bring our hands onto the floor behind us. So if you've got especially if you've got a block under you, you can sit down onto it. But then let the feet come down into cobbler pose, and a long cobbler pose. So I would like you to see how it feels to do your cobbler pose forward bend. So there's it's quite a gap between your feet and your body. And just a little bit of folding forwards here. So if that feels quite nice, and you quite like that, you could stay there. The other option here, is to stand your feet on the floor like this and to fold your body down in between your knees. And just be a little bit attentive with this one, because this one can be quite a lot of stretch through the lower back, yeah? But sometimes I find this one can be, you know, nice for lengthening out the lower back, but I don't want to overdo it. So just choose either this, I suppose it's the beginning of tortoise pose, or your long cobbler pose, to stay in for another couple of breaths. And then we'll go back and we'll just revisit those camel and kapotasana movements again. But it might be before you do any of those that you'd like to lean back on your hands and lengthen your legs out in front of you. And give your legs a little bit of a roll. So we're going to repeat everything that we've done one more time and just see how they feel. So you give your legs a little bit of a roll and then come back. Again, have something under your knees if you need it. Come back into this position. And we can come back to just the turning. We could also come back to the turning and with the toes tucked under, touching one heel at a time. Turning with the heels, turning, touching one heel at a time. And all the time just being attentive to the lower back in these ones. We can try this one. So kapotasana. Kapotasana is pigeon. So this is the other pigeon we do is actually one-legged pigeon. This is full pigeon. We're not going all the way there, but this sort of taking the arms up and the gaze up and trying to feel that we're letting the tailbone drop. And this can be, again, quite challenging for the lower back. So maybe a hand here encouraging the tailbone to drop. Pulling your trousers down is basically what I'm doing there. And then again, if you feel that you've had enough, of course, stop. If you want to, so you've got two options now, either with your toes tucked under. What's it like to take both hands back onto your heels, so into a camel pose? Or some of you, I know, with your feet flat. Maria, I can't see you, but I know you like this. So with your feet flat on the floor, taking your fingers back onto your heels. But again, this is touching for the lower back, so don't do that if it doesn't feel great. That's it. And if you do have your hands on your heels and you really sort of, yes, well done, sort of move in your upper back. Good. Okay. Well done. Come forwards onto, lengthen the legs out on hands and knees, moving back into your squat. So we move the back the other direction. So hands and knees, tucking the toes under, rocking your heels back into your squat. So again, have something under your heels if you like. Again, in your squat, you could be taking your knees wider apart, folding your body down in between your thighs. Having a few breaths here. And then again, we're going to go on into long cobbler pose, forward bend, or that sort of beginning of tortoise pose, so whichever one you prefer. So you can take your hands back behind you. Again, you could give both a go if you wanted to. So if you're coming into your long cobbler pose, these ones are really helpful. We'll have a few extra breaths here. If you have any cushions, particularly if you're doing this long cobbler pose, it's quite nice to have a cushion on your feet and lean forwards to, or a couple of cushions or pillows if you're in your bedroom. So, yes, make use of what you've got. I thought that was going to be the whole duvet in a moment, Emma. So just a few breaths folding forwards. Or equally, if you're landing your feet on the floor, folding down in between your knees in this variation of tortoise. Again, it might be that you would want to have a cushion on the floor to rest your elbows on here, which is actually quite nice. And have a couple of breaths. And wherever you are, just check in with your shoulders. Are the shoulders soft? You can obviously move, you can rock a little bit, whatever's helpful. And of course, you can unfold out of your forward bend whenever you have had enough. So yes, when you're ready, you can unfold out of that forward bend. You can lean back onto your arms, you can lengthen your legs out. So we're going to do one last twisting movement, and then we're going to do a little bit of sitting and breathing. And then we'll do a bit of lying down and breathing, revisiting our poem. So yes, so when you're ready, leaning back on your arms, lengthening your legs out. Let's see here. So here, we're going to take the left leg and we're going to cross the left leg over the right leg and stand the left foot on the floor and see how that feels here. So we're going to be doing a twist towards this left leg that's standing on the floor. Now, you can keep your bottom leg, your right leg long, or you can shift your weight over onto your right hip and bend the right knee. And then you're sitting down beside that foot. You could sit, you can actually sit on that foot. That's another option, but I think we'd necessarily look at that this evening. So this left foot is standing on the floor. It's not cow legs, not quite. So if you've bent your bottom leg and actually you feel very unstable, you might like to lengthen that bottom leg out again, or if your knee isn't happy. So either choose to be here with your bottom leg long or with your bottom knee bent. And settling down. And so we're going to be turning towards the left, turning towards the top leg. And as we turn, first of all, we can cradle the left leg in our right arm. But then if we turn a bit further, we can bring our right elbow onto the outside of the left leg, and our hand faces forwards in this mudra. This is a Abhaya mudra, which is this, I think it's about fearlessness, and I think you see it in statues of the Buddha a lot. It's about, I think, yeah, sort of saying, don't be afraid, have no fear. Just soft hand facing forwards, having a couple of breaths, just seeing how this feels. The back hand, the left hand is on the floor behind you. Those fingertips can help support you. And from here you can untwist. Let's lean back on the arms. Let's lengthen both legs out. Give the legs a little bit of a roll or shake. And then again, let's leave the left leg long to start with. Take the right leg over. So the right leg's crossed over the left leg. We could stay here with this bottom leg straight, or you can shift your weight onto your left hip, bend your left knee, settle. So at this point, ideally you want your right sit bone to come back on the floor. It may not be as heavy as the left one, but if it's really off the floor a lot, you're possibly better off with your bottom leg straight. Your right foot standing on the floor, it's really planted there, helping to support you. We're turning towards the right. We're cradling that right leg, our left hand, and then we can the left elbow to the outside of the right leg, outside of the right knee, the hand facing forwards. So this Abhaya mudra again. Soft hand, shoulders dropping, back fingertips touching the ground, helping to support your spine. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave. And then slowly coming back to the centre. Releasing your arms, uncrossing your legs, lengthening your legs out, giving them a little bit of a roll. So we're going to find a comfortable sitting position now. So this might be, if you want to have your legs long, you could have your back against the wall. You could be kneeling if that's comfortable for you. You could be sitting cross-legged. And yeah, whatever feels good. And we're going to be coming back to that little arm sequence we did right at the beginning of class in a slightly different way because, yeah, just works slightly better with the arms moving in a different way here. So let's take a bit of time to settle down. So you can do a little bit of, particularly if you're sitting in a room, a bit of, I'll say, circling, swaying, rocking, shifting your weight, feeling your legs and pelvis on the ground. Good. And then eventually coming to settle with your hands in prayer pose at your breastbone, at your heart center. So let's settle here. Let's close our eyes. Tune into our breathing, feeling the movement of the breath through the body. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. So let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And as you breathe in, you're going to take your arms wide at shoulder height. If you've got the space, hopefully. And then as you exhale, bring your arms up to touch in prayer pose over your head. So drop your shoulders down. Good. And then again, bring the hands, that base of the thumbs, to the point between your eyebrows. And let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then bring your hands down to your heart center. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then again, as you breathe in, take your arms wide again to shoulder height. As you exhale, bring the arms up, touching the hands together over your head. And then bring the base of your thumbs to that point between your eyebrows. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then the hands down to the heart. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And one last time, breathing in, taking the arms wide. Exhaling, taking the arms up over the head, touching the palms together, dropping the shoulders, bringing the hands down so the base of the thumbs rest at that point between your eyebrows. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. Hands down to the heart. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. Just open your hands out now and keep them at your heart, one hand on top of the other. See if you can feel the rise and fall of your breastbone as the breath comes in and the breath leaves you. And how does it feel to sense into our heart and our heart center? And from here, you can release your hands. You might like to bring your hands onto the floor in front of you and fold forwards a little bit. If you want to touch your forehead to the floor, you can do. You might need to get up to do that. Then we're going to lie down onto our backs. We're going to do a little bit more breathing, lying down. And we'll have the poem again. So make sure you're going to be comfortable and warm. Settling down onto your backs. So just very simply going to bring our hands onto some different parts of our body to feel the breath. So you're going to start with your hands low down on your belly, beneath your belly button. And letting your belly be soft and relaxed so that it can respond to your breathing. And sometimes we feel a lot of movement, sometimes we feel little or none. None of this is right or wrong, it just is. So letting yourself settle with that feeling of your hands on your low belly. You may feel the belly responding to your breathing. And the belly feels in turn the warmth and weight of the hands. Sort of reassuring contact, quietening, steadying. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave. And from the hands resting on the low belly, then slide your hands up and out a little bit so they come to your low side ribs. You might like to have your thumbs going round towards the back of your ribs. You don't have to. Whatever feels most comfortable, most helpful. And see how it feels now to feel your breath in this part of your body. And noticing as your breath comes in, can you feel these low ribs widening, expanding? As you exhale, can you feel these ribs hugging back around you, narrowing? And just staying with that feeling of widening and narrowing, filling and emptying. Giving each part of the breath plenty of space and time. So there's all time in the world for the breath to travel down within you and expand those low ribs. And there's all the time in the world for those ribs to narrow as the breath leaves you slowly, quietly. The last place for the hands, bringing the hands up towards the top of the chest, just below the collarbones, with your elbows resting on the floor beside you if that's possible, and feeling the rise and fall of this top part of your rib cage with your breathing. And so the breath can feel very light sometimes when we focus on it in this place, a very sort of soft, light as a feather breathing. And just letting yourself settle there with the hands on the top of the chest for a few more cycles of breath. And it's up to you for the last minute or so where you'd like to rest your hands. It can be in any of these places on your body, or it could be on the floor beside you. And I'll come back to reading you the poem once more. Late prayer. Tenderness does not choose its own uses. It goes out to everything equally, circling rabbit and hawk. Look, in the iron bucket, a single nail, a single ruby, all the heavens and hells. They rattle in the heart and make one sound. I'm going to ring the singing bowl now 3 times. So just let yourself carry on resting until we return to the silence at the end of the 3rd sound. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to just carry on lying as long as you like. I'm just going to unmute you if I can. You might have to unmute yourself, some of you, if you want to. I can't unmute anyone. So
it's weird like that sometimes, isn't it? It won't let you unmute.
It's weird, isn't it? These sort of vagaries of Zoom, isn't it? So let me turn off the recording. What captures us